Imagine a traffic jam.
Mm.
But it's not a highway backed up for miles. It's an invisible bottleneck, and it's just quietly jacking up the price of your plane tickets or the goods you buy or even like the software you use at work.
Yeah, it's touching everything right now.
Exactly. Welcome to our deep dive into the August 22, 2026 Daily Tech Reader 4 p.m. news brief. Our mission today is to connect the dots between these massive global physical choke points and the new digital bottlenecks that are reshaping our entire economy. So, okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah, we're looking at a real masterclass in supply chain fragility here. Because right now, commercial movement through the Strait of Hormuz is severely restricted.
Which is huge.
Yeah, it's sending shockwaves through both physical and virtual markets, honestly.
And just to sort of set the stage, this is all happening against the backdrop of the stalled U.S.-Iran negotiations under the Trump administration. And with midterms approaching, rising gas prices and inflation are turning this into a massive political pressure cooker. I mean, Brent crude just hit, what, $94.39 a barrel?
Yeah, $94.39.
It's like a single clogged artery in the human body. When that one spot gets blocked, systemic blood pressure spikes everywhere because the heart or the global supply chain has to pump twice as hard just to keep basic functions running.
That's a really helpful way to visualize the pressure. But what makes this artery particularly complicated is all the geopolitical maneuvering around it. Like Iraq, for instance, they managed to secure a special exemption from Iran for their tankers.
Oh, I didn't realize they got an exemption.
They did, yeah. But even they aren't taking chances. They're actively seeking alternative export routes over land, like through Turkey and Syria and Jordan. And then you have China.
Right, because China buys, what, 80% of Iran's oil?
Exactly, 80%. And that heavy reliance exposes Chinese companies to potential American secondary sanctions.
Wow.
Which means the U.S. could legally punish those foreign companies simply for doing business with Iran.
I'm kind of stuck on why the market is reacting this aggressively. Because choke points get squeezed all the time. Why the panic now?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, energy traders are no longer viewing this as a temporary blip. They're pricing this in as a prolonged crisis.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, when a fifth of the world's oil supply is trapped, you don't just pay a few cents more at the pump. The downstream effects are exponential.
Like airline operating expense, right?
Surging overnight. And basic manufacturing costs skyrocket because raw materials require fuel to, produce and transport.
Okay, so that's a purely physical bottleneck.
Yeah.
But our sources highlight a massive pivot to a totally different kind of resource constraint, which is digital energy. I mean, tech companies have issued $220 billion in debt in 2026 alone just to fund AI expansion.
It's staggering.
It really is. A chipmaker called Etched just hit a $21 billion valuation, and data center power demands are just through the roof. But honestly, if everyone is just borrowing billions to build infrastructure, who is actually making the money to pay that debt back?
That is the multi-billion-dollar question right there.
Yeah.
We're essentially in an AI railroad boom. Companies aren't just competing to build the best train like the AI models themselves. They're fighting over who owns the tracks.
The computing power.
Exactly. Those tracks are made of computing power.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. The CFTC, the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, they're asking for comments on creating financial derivatives tied to computing capacity.
Yeah.
So are we literally seeing compute turn into a tradable commodity just like oil?
We absolutely are, and the mechanism is fascinating. So think about how airlines buy oil futures.
Right, to lock in fuel prices for next year so a sudden spike doesn't bankrupt them.
Exactly. Tech companies want to buy compute futures. They need to lock in guaranteed server time at a set price so their massive AI models don't just get paused mid-training if server space suddenly becomes scarce.
Wow.
And what's fascinating here is that nations are realizing compute is just as critical as a crude oil.
Wow.
Brazil, for example, they're pouring massive investments into supercomputing.
Right, using hardware from NVIDIA and Huawei.
Yeah, buying up that hardware to build some of the most powerful AI systems globally.
So we have this arms race for virtual infrastructure. But physical reality is still like aggressively asserting itself.
Yeah.
I mean, we're building these power-hungry data centers right as the U.S. Southwest is trapped under entrenched, dangerous extreme heat.
Yeah, it's brutal.
Which puts enormous strain on the exact power grids those servers need.
The contrast is striking. And it's not just the heat. Look at Indonesia dealing with that devastating magnitude 7.7 earthquake.
Oh man, 68 confirmed dead right.
Yeah, and nearly 1,000 aftershocks that are severely complicating relief deliveries. But this is actually where the physical and digital worlds bridge.
How so?
Well, that massive computational power we just talked about, it's exactly what scientists need to model those climate heat waves or to better predict seismic aftershocks.
Right, so the tech is actually fighting back in the physical realm. Like the sources highlight Verna and Merck reporting really encouraging results for a personalized mRNA melanoma vaccine.
Used with the cancer drug Keytruda.
Yeah. And that kind of medical breakthrough, like sequencing genetic data to target a specific person's cancer that relies entirely on the very computing power that's causing this global bottleneck.
Completely.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? Well, next time you use an AI tool to summarize a meeting or write an email, just realize that action isn't just happening in the cloud. It is directly tied to the price of physical copper, the strain on your local power grid, and the global race for silicon.
Which raises an important question to leave you with today. We've seen how countries stockpile physical oil to protect themselves from supply shocks in places like the Strait of Hormuz.
Right.
If computing power is truly becoming as heavily traded and geopolitically vital as crude oil, how long until nations start building strategic digital reserves for the next global crisis?